We didn't choose to be Brazilians, but we all choose to be Australians. So I think there is something important to say as well. We here because we love it and bringing people together by the food. I think that's the most important thing.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Brazil is a force when it comes to football, but it's just as electrifying from a culinary standpoint. We aren't exposed to much Brazilian food down under, but some chefs have made it their mission to share the joy of their homeland. Rodrigo de Vale is the chef de cuisine at Crown, Melbourne, and a culinary consultant to the Brazilian Embassy's project, Brazilian Chefs in Australia. Rodrigo, how are you?
Hello, how are you? Finally, so good to meet you. I hear the podcast all the time. I'm addictive and very happy to be here with you guys. It's a pleasure.
Oh, it's an honor to have you on the show. Fascinated to learn more about Brazilian food, and you're, big part of that messaging here in Australia, working with the embassy about Brazilian chefs in Australia. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, it was just a very good opportunity because when the lockdown started, I launched a little podcast. And in that podcast, I was just talking to Brazilian chefs in Brazil because probably 3 years ago, the podcast, the way that we do now, just with the voice and the audio, we didn't have anything in Brazil. And then I was so lucky to hear one of your podcasts with a friend of mine. His name is Nick. He's in Tassi. We worked together in Sydney for a long time. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Let's just do something with Brazilian. I will speak Portuguese, but I don't know where I'm gonna get to. And then someone from the consulate in Brazil, the General Consulate Brazil, Australia, in Sydney here, and got in contact with me and then asked me to develop a little project with a video, 3 minutes video with Brazilian recipes, something very easy that someone could do at home as well, and to collect some chefs, people that I know, friend of mine, and so on. So now is the second year. We're very happy to do the project. We have a few very good chefs, few Brazilian chefs that works in Sasuya. We had someone that worked with Karen Martini, and so on. Yeah, the project is doing very well. Is a project that all the embassies around the world is looking at the moment because it's very low cost and a lot of viewers, as you know now with the Instagram and YouTube. So yeah, very good to do something here in Australia, to showcase the culture a little bit, some ingredients that we can import from Brazil and even Brazilian ingredients that we can find in Australia. Everybody know the açaí, the guaraná, the Brazilian nuts.
You're very much a part of the culinary landscape here. How's it made you feel being part of this project to celebrate Brazilian chefs and Brazilian food?
Well, we're very glad because it's the first time that the government invite us to do something about the Brazilian food in Australia, actually. There is few things happening in Europe and in America. There's a lot of Brazilian influence in the food, in the community. But in Australia, we don't see much. So we thought there would be a good opportunity because the Brazilian community in Australia is over 40,000 people here. So, and you don't see much of Brazilian restaurants around the corner, like you see the Thai food, the Vietnamese, the Italian. So we just thought there would be a time that, we need to come to the surface and show that we have the food as well in Brazil, and we miss the food as well that we cannot find here. And it's time for us to start cooking besides the barbecue.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about Brazilian food. I know it's very vast and has incredible depth, but share some of your sort of favorite ingredients and dishes perhaps that people may not know about.
Yeah, so I think the Brazilian food started being developed when the Portuguese took over and discovered Brazil on the 15th centuries. So we have a little bit of Portuguese, so there is a fresh fish. We do use a lot of oil, so we do use a lot of olive oil, very fresh ingredients because, yes or no, the country, the majority is, the weather is so hot. On the north, we have a lot of chilies and spices, and a lot of influence from the slaves, the Africans that came from Africa when the Portuguese took Brazil as a colony. Half of the Brazil used to be a Spanish colony too, so they divided Brazil in half. So we do have a lot of a Spanish background in food. The farmers, the things that they do in the regional is just amazing. So the wine that people produce that they learn in Europe for generations and generations ago, it's just great. And the feijoada probably is the king of the Sunday at home besides the barbecue, which is a black bean stew, where they used to use the leftovers from the pork. From the farmers on the 15th centuries when they always slaves, and it's still on the table. Probably every Sunday, every Brazilian family we do feijoada at home. Yeah, it's very popular in Brazil, and if you go to a Brazilian restaurant, I'm pretty sure it's on the menu. It's just a black stew with a lot of offcuts of bacon and pork and ears, and it's from the nose to toe, so it's everything.
Well, take us back to when you were young and in Brazil. What sort of role did food play in your family?
I guess in Brazil, well, let's say 30 years ago, 35 years ago, the restaurants wasn't a big thing. The fine dining didn't exist. Was more about big festivals, people sharing food around, or cooking the whole cow on a spit, and like cooking whole animals. Wasn't much about steaks and grills and fillets of fish. So I remember doing Christmas and New Year's, and my mom and my grandmother, and usually years ago, who used to look after the kitchen was only woman in Brazil as well. Things change a lot from now. So I remember they making like just beautiful feast and so many cuts of meat, birds and fresh fruits, and a lot of desserts. Everything from the colon, so everything, all the rest was pretty old and rustic. So that's what I have in my head, like sharing with the family in Christmas and the New Year's night, which is pretty amazing, because when I do menus days and people ask me for sharing, that's pretty easy for me. Is right away I can come up with something in 5 minutes, because I was born doing sharing with the family on the table. We never used to do like a la carte or things like that in restaurant. It was pretty rare.
What lured you to a career in hospitality?
I was doing a marketing in Brazil when I was 19, marketing, and then I turned my 23, and then I felt I have to go abroad to study English or to try to do a second university, because it was pretty hard to find a good job in Brazil back in the days. I think still it is anyway. So I went to New Zealand, and I had a few friends. We used to play water polo together in the clubs in Brazil, in a university. And they say, "Oh, we all going to New Zealand. You want to come along, and then go do your school, try to do a master's degree or something." And then that was just a time of my life that I have nothing hold me back in Brazil. My whole family is still there, and then we went to New Zealand. I couldn't speak a word in English. It was really hard for me in the first probably 4 days, and the easiest way for me to make some money probably was washing dishes. So yeah, that's honestly, that's how we started in Auckland. I'll never forget. Was different times back there, like working on the weekends in Brazil. Like hardly we work on the weekends. We do Monday to Friday, and then was the first time that I got in touch with food. That was almost 20 years ago. Cooking food, making desserts. That was the jobs for the kitchen hands over there. Yeah, that's how everything started.
Do you have any stories of your first steps into the cooking aspect and in restaurants, and when you decided that was the direction you'd take?
Yeah, so after New Zealand, we came to Australia, Sydney, and then looking for a job. And then I was really happy to have someone that believed me and look after me when I was there, a chef. Her name is Elise. And that was down in Darling Harbour, because in probably in 2005, 2006. That was the hot point. Was so many restaurants, 1,000 people every single night. And I started washing dishes over there, and she saw something on me, and she started teaching me slowly. And then I started looking after the breakfast. I started studying culinary. I done my certificate 3 and my diploma, and slowly just taking after chef de party, junior sous, and so on. But pretty much was learning how to do breakfast in the morning, try to learn everything that I could in English, all the ingredients, doing the Christmas. I always was up to do Christmas and New Year's because I had no one here, no family. So when nobody wanted to work, I was the only one to put my hand up. So I think that's how everything started, and I had probably more opportunities than anybody else.
You spent a lot of time in Sydney. What were some of the really important venues and people that you worked with that helped sort of carve your path?
I think highlight in Sydney was to work along Luke Megan. He was one of the guys that I always want to work with. I was in love with his food and the books. I remember to start working over there, and I knew half of the recipes because I used to read his book every single day, especially salt. And it was pretty amazing to see Joe Pavlovich on a pass and work along him, working on the specials, and see what actually a celebrity chef does. And we think it's all the TV and the cookbooks, but when you see the guy running 9 restaurants around the world, you change your perspective of what actually is hard work and what you need to do to get there. So that was pretty amazing. Probably another one would be at the grounds, when the grounds was actually one of the 10 destinations in Sydney. You'll never imagine that a cafe they started with just a takeaway coffee would end up to be one of the 10 most points, one of the 10 most visited places in Australia. So that was a good thing to see, to do 100 people a day, to jump to 4,000 on a Sunday. Doing the ordering was just crazy. Like, everything is in pilots. You see the trucks coming through on a Friday. You get a bit scared because you think, oh, I think I done a mistake. I order extra, but actually by Sunday afternoon, you might be running out in food pretty quickly.
You mentioned Luke Mangan and Joe Pavlovich and working at Glass Brasserie. Do you have any stories from that kitchen, such a busy place in the centre of Sydney, and what it was like to work with Luke?
Such inspiration. What a man, what a myth. Things he used to come and tell us in the kitchen and cooking with us on a Saturday night. He was always on the pass, supporting Joe. Just to see the people come around the chef's table, his specials. I think the highlight was to see Joe and Luke develop the empire and taking over the ships, Vale, Japan, to see the boys traveling to Maldives. Like, we traveling everywhere to help and supporting the team, and so many students. We had so many people doing stages back in the day at Hilton Hotel. So staff meal was always something different. People cooking food around the world. People wanted to be in the kitchen back in the days. Was funny. People arguing to get the stages, to get more shifts, just to be in the kitchen with us. It was just a good thing to see, and having my pals, very close to my heart actually at that time.
These days you're in Melbourne. What led to the move down there?
Melbourne happened because my wife she took a job in Melbourne at Hilton. She was one of the F&B managers at Hilton. She been in Hilton for so many years, and we came down, and I came down with her and got a job pretty quickly, and then got a job with Asa, which was contact the Luke did with me, and I stayed with Asa for a while, which was as well another amazing experience working with someone like him.
T. Gazard's food is a little different to Luke's. Tell us about the experiences you had working with him.
I saw I think he was running only the Ginger Boy back in the day, and he wanted to do something about retail and go to the big markets, develop his amazing products and sauces that he has. We done as well, that was all in lockdown, so we done all the packaging. We learned together how to do his food, his amazing food in the boxes and to be delivered at home. The businessman, the charm and the creativity that I saw every single day with the man on the high and in the lows, when we about to open and when we about to close again in Melbourne from the lockdown. To see the point of view and how smart he was to change the dates, to change the products, to find the new suppliers. Was just great. I have no doubt that probably one of the greatest chefs that ever walk in Melbourne. I spoke to him my last day when we finished the business about the lockdown and the retails, and it was just so good to be with him, to speak and work next to him every single day for I believe almost 2 years. To be his corporate head chef and to develop the ideas and to hear the stories that he tell about the Hong Kong and how he wrote the books. He showed me the places that he took the photos and developed the recipes, how he created the black, the amazing steakhouse that he used to have in Casino in Sydney, and where the ideas came from. And he write down everything, like everything is on a computer, everything is on a spreadsheet. He has recipes like really, really old, and how he developed the books was just amazing to see. And then again you see the difference, like with someone that got the talent and the hard work they put behind the TV shows and the cookbooks is just in another level.
That period of time was challenging for everyone, and you moved states and got a new role. What's the last couple of years been like for you?
After the lockdown, straight away I jumped to Crown, which is great, and where I am at the moment, I'm so glad to be there. The culinary and the pop-ups that we do. Now we hold the Ministry of Crab, and we done Alejandro from Famous Daughters, and the opportunities that Crown creates is just great. If you're a chef and if you want to have a long steady career, I'll definitely say the Crown probably one of the best things I ever done for myself, and the support that we have for F&B directors is just great. But the last years was a bit crazy, besides probably our years Melbourne being steady now, but the lockdowns, and I had to do some of the hotels, the hotels for the people that came from the flights too. I done for a year as well before working with Ezra, to not know where we're gonna go and to not know where we are and what the virus will turn to. I think we end up doing really well for all of us. Very uncertain, but I was very glad to be a chef because I could have a job at all the time, and I never miss anything at home, and we could buy things and make sure the money is still coming. There was a chef career that actually saved me, so I was really glad when I walked into New Zealand and find a job in the kitchen, actually, back the days.
These days you chef de cuisine at Crown Melbourne. What does the role entail, and tell us about the scope of it?
Well, I look after the South Bank area, so I look after the Merwell. So there is the Merwell Dining, the Merwell Burger Bar, which is a really, really busy venue. And I look after the pub in the corner, the giant pub that covers all the corner. We're looking after the VRC now, so the Victoria Racing. Today, the Melbourne Cup happening, so it's more than 100,000 people visiting VRC. We have more than 100 outlets over there. It's just fine burgers and fine dining out the door. So I've been involved with both of the projects, so the South Bank of Crown, as long as the VRC as well.
tell us a bit about the challenges of the role with such a huge sort of offering and things to look after. What are some of the challenges that you're facing?
I believe challenge would be, I think chefs now, find chefs probably all around the world, hard to find chefs. But I do believe that now is very critical, especially with the doors. People from overseas was really hard to get to Australia probably 6 months ago, and now the doors are open. People are coming. Chefs, the Europeans are coming back. I think we find it a way out. As Crown, we offer a lot of courses, and we do have a lot of perks, and staff meals, uniforms, and chef's knife, shoes. We do a lot of courses, so I think for us it's not so hard to find chefs. But I see people, friends of mine in the industry, really suffering. Overall, my role, developing all the menus. I'm lucky enough that I could travel the world and see a lot of things, work with a lot of great chefs, and collected a very large cookbook shelf, and I have a lot to take from. But definitely, ideas for menus in such a speed, and find a great chefs to work together to build the big grade. I think probably will be the biggest challenges.
Tell me a little bit about your cooking. You have grew up in Brazil and very passionate about Brazilian ingredients and food, and have trained in Australia and worked your way up. What is your food ethos and style?
Well, I can't take it away the rustic point of view from my ideas, and the sharing style. Wherever I go, I try to take the sharing style with me. At the grounds, we did an absolutely amazing job on the functions, developing all the menus should be sharing. So I think I take a lot of from the grounds, what I learned and what I could experience over there, and things that we try. So even with ESA doing the banquets, we all about the sharing. And now at Crown, a very strong part of the menu is the different tastes and textures, different ingredients, the using fermentations and acids. I do try to put some input on Brazilian flavors, but in Australia we're still not there. People not really familiar, but I do use the tamarind paste, the black beans, the way that we cook the pork on our own master stock. I mean, I try the best as I can, but I know the limitations on Australian flavor and how the people don't like the food here so salty. In Brazil, we eat with a lot of salt, and we use a lot of rock salt, and here not so much.
You mentioned that there's ingredients that you can't get here, but there's some that you can. Tell us a bit about sort of what can be used here, and perhaps some dishes that people could create inspired by Brazilian food.
I think people don't know, but the cassava is Brazilian. So the cassava, that was founded by the Brazilian Indians, the natives. Cassava is great if you boil and then you quickly deep fry. I find cassava is perfect to follow a steak tartare with a nice kangaroo, venison, or even a beef steak tartare, and following with the cassava on the side, so you can just put the steak on top of the cassava and have together. Cassava, I think, is a great food for pubs and probably snacks. Combines with any oil, any spices when you toast it after deep fry. I would say the Brazilian nuts, great for desserts as well, and great to use on a mandolin and on a microplant to finish dishes. The acai, if you guys love to go to the gym, acai is a great post workout. Everybody in Brazil after the gym have a acai at home or on the bar with the friends. So I would say the acai, the Brazilian nuts, and definitely the cassava would be the most popular now in Australia.
You've been working on the project with the Brazilian embassy and interviewing chefs from Brazil. Take us on that journey. Were there things that you didn't know that you've discovered that you can sort of share with us as well on that journey that you went on?
Yeah, the podcast that I do called Feijoada Cast, what I really want to do was really go deep in people's beliefs and the backgrounds and how they develop themselves into the food. Was just good to see that every single chef, there is no one out of the list. The passion for the food starts when they're young and kids. Everybody talk about the gramada when they used to do the pasta and drop on the floor and eating raw dough from the mom, or was just amazing to see that everything and everybody that has a relationship with food has memories from the childhood. The connections and the people that I met, as Janaína Rueda, who is one of the top female chefs in the world, Alex Atala, Chef Paulo Machado, the Brazilian ambassadors for the food. Everything through all this connection that I done for a little idea and from my phone at home, hiding in my room, trying to connect with these people. And suddenly we developed the project with the embassy, and was just great to see the things that happened in the last 2 years and all around it and everybody that got involved. We pretend the next year to do food events and in Sydney probably to showcase the Brazilian food besides the world famous barbecue. It's just a little idea that I had in a rainy day in a lockdown and turn into all this and actually changing people's life and improving people's network, and people change jobs because they met the people from the project and things like that. And today I met over 100 chefs in Brazil through my phone and doing little interviews and conversations. So that was just something very good to see, and that showed the little ideas. But if you put a thing together, have a little bit thinking and things that you want to do, develop a little brand, you can make it.
You came over to this part of the world to learn English, and you detoured into the hospitality sector. What do friends and family back home think about you now as an ambassador for Brazilian food in Australia?
Well, mom is very proud. Probably mom is the biggest fan. I tell her the stories and people that I met, and I say, Mom, next week I'm gonna talk to the chef, and she's like, oh my God, I've seen the chef my whole life in the TV, and now you're talking to them, and in the end of the day, what I'm most happy of is doing the good for people that sometimes cook in the kitchen, going home without the family and not knowing where the future can take it. Looking for a visa and trying to make it in Australia, have a family, and just bring something like the project that inspire, and you have to look for a recipe and you get people together and you meet another chefs and you develop something, and suddenly everybody knows you in Brazil, that you belong to a project that make all of us proud, and trying to put our footprint in Australia. Done by, for example, Rodrigo from McGill, the head chef in McGill Estates in Penfolds, is one of them. Diego Rosales, that was with Karen Martini as well. I mean, we are here. There's a lot of Brazilians in the kitchens that, we all go for lunches and dinners and the fine diners around Australia. And put these people together and have a sense of belong, I think is incredible.
Do you see yourself with a Brazilian-inspired restaurant in Australia down the track?
Oh, love to. We're just trying to do something that is not actually a barbecue. To have the smell of barbecue on you every single night when you come home is not easy. But yeah, I love to do and bring the Brazilian food to another level. Let's not say a fine dining, but definitely a sharing concept where we can definitely highlight the ingredients and try to get a few things fresh from Brazil. There's a lot of companies that import food from Brazil as well, and even frozen and fresh ingredients, which both are great. That would be a dream come true. If not me, probably somebody else. But it would be great to see a good Brazilian restaurant running and showcase, and like the Filipinos, the Philippine people do now at the moment, the Thai, the Italian. That would be probably the next step, and would be another dream come true too as well.
Well, you're doing amazing things with Brazilian food, and obviously looking forward to the events that may happen next year as well. What do you love about what you do?
What I love about what I do is I remember when I started here in Australia, when I came, and it was so difficult to connect with Brazilian people. We didn't have I think no Facebook at the time, no Instagram, and to gather people, the community together was kind of a challenge. And today to see the connection and the ideas that we share on the groups about the project and the things that we actually can achieve, because now we all connected, is a very good thing to see. And we definitely have a lot to give back to the Australian community as well, because we didn't choose to be Brazilians, but we all choose to be Australians. So I think there is something important to say as well. We here because we love it. We do miss the food at home, of course, and a little bit of our culture, but we definitely are here because there was probably the greatest choices that we done for us and our family as well. Bring people together, bring the community together, and definitely developing the food and bringing people together by the food. I think that's the most important thing.
Well, it's amazing what you're doing, Rodrigo, and it's an honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today to hear your story. Please keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here. I'm a big fan of the project. Yes, let's keep in touch. Thank you. Have a good day.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.